All right, we are back. Another episode of the KNL Sports Huddle. I'm Cage Kiplinger, your host. This is my co-host Logan Hubert. Here on a Monday, it is Memorial Day, so I'd like to take a moment, thank all the many servicemen and women who lay down their lives for our country, and we get to do this every week because of that. Get to talk about sports. So, how are we doing today, Logan?
I'm doing well. Yeah, it was a great holiday weekend, and yes, we thank all those who have laid down their lives for our country, and order for us to have freedom for a weekend like this. So,
Yeah, yeah, and we got a lot to get to. Obviously, the NBA playoffs keep on rolling. The Eastern and Western Conference Finals. Some fun games that happened through there. Also got a decision on the NFL's Tush Push for the Philadelphia Eagles. We'll be able to get to that later on. Let's go to our missed cut here. So obviously, there's many things that happen throughout the sports world. Do want to start with the Indianapolis Colts. Jim Irsay passing away at 65. This is a guy who took over the team in 1997, oversaw a Super Bowl victory in Super Bowl 41. It is someone that the NFL will sorely miss. He was quite the impulsive owner at times, but he definitely made the Colts organization feel like family. And he was one of the most charitable owners in the league. So one that will be dearly missed by the league. In other news, Shamar Stewart and the Cincinnati Bengals are at odds over his rookie contract. This is just par for the course for the Cincinnati Bengals. They can't get their star players right, and they can't even agree to a rookie contract, which is just nuts. But we got flag football coming to the Olympics in 2028. Seems like a lot of NFL players are interested in playing, so that'll be cool to see if we can get Joe Burrow out there throwing some footballs in the Olympics, repping Team USA. Um, in college basketball, Tennessee's Zakai Ziegler is suing the NCAA, seeking a fifth year of eligibility. My only thing on this is it's time to be done with these old ass players playing college sports. I just saw a guy um, commit to Green Bay University, and he's 28. He'll be the oldest player in college basketball. It's time. We're well enough away from the COVID era. A lot of players got extra years of eligibility because they um, missed out on years because of COVID. I think we're far enough away from that now. Let's cut these guys off at 4 years. I know Ohio State, one of my favorite players of all time, Ian Kraft, felt like he was there for 10 years. We don't need someone like that anymore in college sports. In college football, the USC Notre Dame game is in a bit of jeopardy. As they haven't really been able to come to agreement to get this back on the schedule for this year. Um, my thoughts on this is that USC, if I'm USC, I don't want this game. I've already got myself stuck in the Big Ten, playing really much more tougher schedules than I did in the Pac-12. I would not want to play Notre Dame in the freezing cold late in the year after coming off of a game in at Michigan or at Ohio State and having to turn around and play Notre Dame right after. But if I'm Notre Dame, I need all the big games that I can get. So if I'm Notre Dame, I definitely want this game. And finally, more into the college football playoff season, we will have a new straight seeding model rewarding the top four teams with the top four seeds and the first round bye rather than what we got last year with the top four conference champions getting the top four seeds and the four buys. Any thoughts on any of that?
yeah. So rest in peace to the late great Jimmy Irsay. Very unique owner, and I say that because he's the only owner that's ever like. I don't think I've ever heard of a player say they couldn't stand Jimmy Irsay. Like every
Yeah,
single player he's had, even ones that they've gotten rid of, like they've all so they love Jim Irsay. Like you just don't see that from the owner very often. He was very involved with the team. He cared about the team. He was basically a fan. Like he was a fan that that was the head of a NFL organization. Which honestly, if you're a football fan, I think you'd much rather have that than a guy who also owns some big tech company and owns a football team and doesn't really care about it too much. He's just in it for the
yeah,
money. I mean, love to have an owner like Jim Irsay. Yeah, like you said, very charitable guy. He cared for people a lot. I mean, I'll always remember when I was 8, and so I had I've been dealing with type 1 diabetes since I was 4. When I was 8, my local newspaper did some sort of article about me and just like raising funds for a walk
Yeah.
to cure it. And I just happened to wear a Peyton Manning jersey when they took a picture of me, and somehow word got to the Colts, and a few weeks later, I got a certificate signed by Jim Irsay saying that the Colts recognized me, and
That's cool.
that's so awesome. But you just lately, you've just been hearing stories like that all the time now that he's passed, and yeah, the league will be missed. It's hard to believe he was only 65.
Yeah. That was the biggest thing that stood out to me is like he was only 65. That just didn't seem right.
Well, like so, 6 years ago, he would have only been in his 50s, and you'd see him and you'd think, "Oh, that guy's pushing 70 almost." But
Mhm.
yeah, I mean, it's amazing. Yeah, he certainly had his off outside of the business issues with addiction and stuff, and you hate to see that. And
Yeah.
but like I said, great guy, great owner, and he'll be missed. We'll see. I guess the ownership of the Colts will likely be going to his daughters. So just put that nugget out there. Um, as for the college football playoffs, I think it's great. Um, when you saw the 12 teams, you knew just by the eye test. You didn't have to play the games to know that Ohio State, Texas, who else was there? Notre Dame. They were all leagues better than Boise State, and then Arizona State, the winner of the Big 12,
Yeah.
and obviously
SMU.
Clemson. Now Clemson did get the SMU, and Clemson. Now Clemson did get the final seed, so that was done correctly. But Arizona State, granted, they did play really well in their playoff game. They didn't.
Yeah.
They were not one of the 4 best teams, and Boise State absolutely was not. So, yes, automatic bid. Give it if winning your conference is an achievement. Give them the automatic bid for sure. That doesn't mean you're one of the 4 best teams in the country that deserves a home game plus a bye. Yeah, so a good move by the NCAA there.
Yeah, and I think if I were Oregon, it's like, could you not have done this last season?
Yeah,
We wouldn't have had to have played Ohio State in our first playoff game. And there could have been a matchup between those two teams in the final game had Ohio State been given. They would have ultimately had like the third or fourth seed if this had been in place this season. So definitely benefits a team like Oregon coming into this next playoff where they'll get more the structured seeding that's a little bit more fair for their top seed. Hopefully, this creates better matchups throughout the playoff bracket. And another nugget is Notre Dame benefits from this as because they're an independent. They would have never had a shot at getting a top 4 seed in a bye because they wouldn't have won a conference championship. Now that's out the window. They have a shot at a top 4 seed, so I'm sure they're excited as well. So yeah, let's get to some of the NBA. Obviously, we've got Pacers, Knicks, Thunder, T-Wolves. We've seen 3 games go by for each of these series. Thunder and T-Wolves do play right now. They just tipped off about 10 minutes ago when we started airing this. Let's start with the Pacers and Knicks because this one's been a lot of fun. It's been very fascinating to watch. Obviously, the Pacers pulling off a huge comeback win for their 3rd series in a row in Game 1. This was just all 3 games have been so much fun to watch because this is how basketball should be played. Like we're physical basketball. The Pacers obviously know how to work the ball around, but I think this is what we wanted to see, and it's important for the league to have teams like these to have success in order to kind of switch the trend of the play styles that we're seeing. Obviously, we know how big the 3-point shot has taken over the league, and I feel like all 4 of the teams that we have in the playoff right now that have made it this far have kind of flipped that a little bit. We're not seeing as much of the 3-point shot and really just finding the right bucket. Give me your thoughts on what you've kind of seen so far.
Yeah, this Pacers Knicks series has been the polar opposite of the OKC Timberwolves series, as we'll talk about in a little bit. In terms of entertainment, all three games have been entertaining. Going into Game 3, obviously the way it went down, you think the Pacers should have won because they were up 20. But I mean, the first two games, the Pacers were just a couple possessions away from being down 0-2. That's how close they were. So it's
Yeah.
not like the Pacers had a commanding 2-0 lead. I mean, you knew these teams were very evenly matched. The Knicks play incredible on the road. They're now 6-1 on the road, with their one loss being that Boston loss, where pretty much everyone knew Boston was going to win because they were going to play spirited without Jason Tatum, and that's always happened in the history of basketball. So, but they've won every other road game besides that, and they've had major comebacks in those road games too. It's amazing what they've done. But yeah, going back to that game one performance, that was, yeah, the Knicks immediately felt the pain that the Bucks and the Cavs felt, because that was very similar. That one may have been the craziest because one, the stakes are higher, Eastern Conference Finals, but 16-point lead with half a quarter to go. Some analysts are saying this, and I kind of agree. Yes, the Knicks choked a little bit, but it wasn't a full-on choke. Like, the Pacers just had to do some miraculous things to come back, because the Knicks still scored towards the end. Like, it's not like they weren't scoring at all. Like, they made a few buckets at the end, but yeah, Aaron Naismith went absolutely nuclear. Like, people are comparing, like, that was a Curry-like performance or a Reggie Miller-like performance, but that's never been done ever. No one's ever made 6 threes in the fourth quarter in the playoff game, let alone those 6 threes were all within the last half of the quarter. Like, it wasn't spread out at all. Like, they were all within.
Yeah.
I mean, it was the most. I don't know if I'll ever see a better shooting display than that at the end of a game. 6 for 6. Those last two were contested, and all were needed. They all just kept the door open the whole last half of the quarter, and then obviously Tyrese hit that miraculous deep two to send it to overtime. But yeah, crazy game. I'm glad that the next two games have been close, because there was a chance that could break the Knicks' spirit after giving up that. But no, we still had
Yeah.
2 competitive games after that.
Yeah, and regardless of what happens the rest of the series, we've had a couple of real classics go down in this series. Obviously, that game one with the Pacers coming back, game three, the Knicks coming back. But yeah, two teams who are were underrated, overlooked coming into this postseason. They've given us some of the best games in recent playoff memory. We talked about it before, the Pacers, the way they play the game, just the ball movement, and it's all orchestrated by Halliburton at the top. But they're just such a well-coached team. They push the ball so well up the court. It's like a track meet every time you see them play. It will be interesting to see how they come out in game four, because game three was it. I thought it was done. First half, obviously, I've been burned so many times by 20-point leads in the playoffs, and it happened again. They always get me every single time.
Nothing more irrelevant than first halves in NBA playoff games.
Well,
You have to have a 30-point lead for it to be safe. 30-point
right.
lead, 30-point leads in greater is fine. Anything under the 30-point lead at halftime, no, the game's not over. 3-point shot. The use of the 3-point shots made it possible where teams can easily come back from that. And we've seen it 6 times this playoffs. A team has overcome a 20-point deficit. 5 of those 6 have been done by both the Pacers and the Knicks.
Yeah.
So yeah,
And now we've seen them do it to each other. Now, in game one, the Knicks made a great second half charge to pull away to as much as 17, but I see it less of an indictment on the Knicks in game one, or a choke job by the Knicks, as much as it was Halliburton, coming through for them. Because
Andy Smith.
and Neesmith, obviously, yeah. Because this is the third team in a row that the Pacers did this to.
Yeah. Now they did miss a couple free throws at the end that could have iced it, but
Right.
So much more had to happen. So much more had to go wrong for the Knicks, and it did because the Pacers just kept making shots.
Game three, this was the Karl Anthony Towns game. He brings them back from down 20 to win a crucial game, because if they're down 3-0, this series is over. The Pacers would have a shot at just ending this at home. But the Pacers, I mean, we texted during the game three. You mentioned that the Pacers game threes aren't their strong suit. They haven't won a game three on playoff long. So they always throw up a stinker, but I don't really see this being something that gets carried over into the next few games, because they've won their past two series 4-1. Their bad games don't really carry over game. And I still have my doubts about the Knicks' ability to have sustained success while Brunson is on the floor, because the Knicks made this comeback when he sat for the majority of it. He comes in the fourth quarter for 2 minutes to finish the game and hit a clutch floater as soon as he came in. But outside of that, I mean, are we sure that this team should be revolving around Brunson? Like, are we kind of overrating him?
So yeah, this has been a fascinating series with regards to Jalen Brunson, but I've thought about it a lot. The more I think about it, I think it's just the way Neesmith's been guarding him that it's come down to the fact that when he's off the court, they're just better without him. I don't think this would be the case in any other series. They needed him obviously in the other two series, so I mean, this isn't to say the Knicks just get rid of Brunson because he's huge to the team. But it is worth noting, Game One, Brunson went out in the fourth quarter. The Knicks went on their run. That's where they got their 16 or 17 point lead. And then Brunson came back in, and Pacers came back, forced overtime, and we know what happened after that. Like you said, Brunson's still scoring. That's what's weird. I seriously think it's just his defense is not great. It really isn't. Like, he was kind of responsible for a lot of those Neesmith threes in Game One. Like, he was the one guarding Neesmith until they finally made an adjustment and kind of used Hart, try to use Hart to stop him, but obviously that didn't work either. But yeah, it's noticeable when I think it almost like in Game Three, it freed up Karl Anthony Towns. With Brunson off the floor, Cat was like, okay, it's my time to shine. And he was doing it from everywhere. He was driving, hitting threes, which is exactly what the Knicks were hoping they would see from him. And they've seen that in spurts this season from him. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see if Neesmith plays tomorrow. Like, we're recording this on Monday, Memorial Day, so Game 4 is tomorrow, Tuesday, May 27th. And Aaron Neesmith is questionable with that ankle injury. He did return in Game 3, but ankle injuries like that can sometimes get worse the day after, so it's really up in the air. Or they could just be throwing that questionable label up just to confuse the Knicks, because teams just do that. So, but if he's out, that is huge for this series, because I could see Brunson going off. Brunson's due to go off, like absolutely off. And without Neesmith guarding him, I feel like he could really take this series over and tie it 2-2 and going back to Madison Square Garden.
Yeah, that would not be good for the Pacers to have a chance to have made this 3-0 and then all of a sudden be tied up 2-2 in the series. That would be a stink for them. But looking at Brunson and the Knicks, do you think because the way their offense is constructed, everything revolves around him when he's in there, and he almost stalls out the offense a lot when he's just going one-on-one with somebody and just backing them down. Whereas you look at the Pacers and their offense, it's like it doesn't matter who gets the ball on any possession. You know, Halliburton's going to find you. Halliburton's going to take the shot. You know, so it can end up in a different player's hands every possession, and they do so well at pushing the ball and pushing the pace. And the Knicks are a little bit of a slower pace, go on Jalen Brunson, and it just looks like the rest of the guys are just standing around watching Brunson.
It was weird because that's what the Pacers offense was looking like when Brunson was off the court in Game 3 and the Knicks made that comeback. It was
credit to the Knicks defense.
Oh, the Knicks defense was incredible in the second half. But the Pacers did kind of go away from their identity. It was kind of more ISO ball, and I don't know where that came from.
Right.
But the Knicks, I like the Knicks defense was incredible. But but yeah, if the Knicks ultimately win this series, I don't think we'll be having this conversation anymore about is Brunson overrated or anything like that. I just think this series in particular, I think the Pacers are suited enough to handle him. But just a couple other things I want to say about Game 3 is that I I texted you this. I think the end of the first half was what lost it for the Pacers. So they had a 20-point lead, and Brunson was off the court. Towns was off the court. They were both in foul trouble. So that's your two leading scorers. And I don't know what in the heck the Pacers were doing on offense those last 2 minutes. They just kind of went in absolute cruise control, thinking they already had it. Like they would drive in the lane and have a decent chance at a layup or get fouled, and they kick it out for a three, and they didn't hit anything. And I'm just like, that's not what built your 20-point lead. Why? What are you doing? Like you're
Right.
supposed to kill them, put them in the stranglehold while you're up 20 already. So and give them no hope. But they just kind of lollygagged those last couple minutes. The Knicks made some great plays to cut it to 13, and that's what gave them life. That's what helped spark the comeback in the second half. But one thing I will say for the Pacers that I think is good for them is that I don't think they're ever going to shoot that bad again from three. They went.
Yeah.
That wasn't talked about near enough. Like they went 5 for 25, which is horrible for the Pacers standards. Um, they I think there was only one regular season game all year where they shot worse from three, and that was obviously their worst playoff 3-point shooting percentage.
Right.
So I there's no way they're going to shoot like that again, and they only lost by 6. So I think that bodes well for the Pacers, knowing
Yeah.
that's their identity.
Yeah. It just always looks like more of a struggle for the Knicks to find the scoring, whereas with the Pacers, in the second half of Game 3, they've been one of the best offensive teams, if not the best offensive team in this playoff. So um, it's almost a situation kind of like the Celtics that oh, it's inevitable that the shooting is going to come back. It's just unfortunate that Tatum got hurt, but yeah, I see the depth of the Pacers being able to withstand a longer series if this goes 6-7 games, and the Knicks are able to push this one out. But where would you kind of rank this Pacer team amongst amongst its history? You go back to the Paul George teams, the Reggie Miller teams. Heck, you can go back to the early '70s when they were dominating the ABA. I mean, where does this team, this era of Pacer basketball, really rank for you?
So I would say it surpassed the early 2010s because they're because that team is mostly known for their defense.
Yeah,
They were kind of offensively challenged, and who knows what
for a
they
long time.
who knows if they played in a different era, if they could have been better. They did run into the Heat 2 times when they made the conference finals, but this Pacers team, while they're incredible on offense, last year they were bad on defense. This year they're more in the middle of the pack, getting better defense. So I think that elevates them over the Paul George, David West, Roy Hibbert era Pacers. It's too early for a call on the late 90s, early 2000s Pacers. I'm still going to give them the slight edge just because, especially the late 90s, because, I mean, they played at a time when Michael Jordan was dominating the league. And
Yeah,
a few weeks ago, we did that segment on the best teams to never win the title. I had that
the
Pacers team,
'98.
98 Pacers team, because that was the only team in that last Jordan three-peat that took the Bulls to 7 games, and the Pacers even had a lead in that fourth quarter of Game 7. So I'm still going to rank them above the Pacers, but if the Pacers make the finals and make it competitive, I mean, it'd be hard to not put this team at number 1.
Yeah,
But a
I
long
think.
ways to go. Long ways to go.
Yeah, and I would love to see a Pacers Thunder final series. I think they're a lot more similar. If we had Timberwolves and Knicks, those teams would be very similar as well. And I think those would be the best matchups we could get in the finals. We'll see how that all plays
I
out,
agree.
but yeah, yeah,
Just any, and like I said, I'm, I call Pacers in 6. I'm going to stand by that prediction. So
yeah.
I still think the Pacers will make the finals, but if Neesmith is hurt, I do think that throws a wrench into things. But anyone complaining about the Pacers being in the finals and it's just bad for basketball, to me, those are casuals
Yeah.
who cannot accept. They cannot accept either a big market in the finals like Lakers, Warriors, or Celtics or Heat, and they can only accept those teams in the finals or a small market that has like a Giannis or a Jokic on their team. They cannot accept the fact that small market teams who play good team offensive basketball can be good. They just can't.
And it's fun to watch. The Pacers have got to be the most fun team to
Yeah,
watch
I mean,
in this playoff.
it's just casuals who can't accept that fact.
Yeah, yeah, and you know the Pacers have actually been an organization who've been largely successful in the NBA. They just never reached the mountaintop of the NBA, but I mean, so many years they've been in the playoffs, going back to even Victor Oladipo, Domantas Sabonis years, the Paul George years, the Jermaine O'Neal early 2000s years, obviously the Reggie Miller years, and
They've
then
never had a first overall pick. Yeah.
right, and that's a credit to their success that they've never let themselves get to be at the bottom of the barrel. So yeah, Pacers being in the finals would be incredible, I think, for the NBA to have a team like that. We already know we're going to get our 7th champion in 7 years. So I think just the parity that we're getting right now is really cool. And a team like the Pacers can reach the mountaintop and it not be like baseball where it's Dodgers Yankees. You know.
Yeah, I do hope it's not Knicks Thunder because that would be a horrible matchup. Like I completely agree with you. If it's Knicks Timberwolves, I would be excited for that. If it's Pacers Thunder, I'd be really excited for that. Pacers Timberwolves could still I'd put that third, but it could still be interesting. But yeah, Knicks Thunder would be the absolute worst matchup. The only cool thing about that is that both teams are blue and orange.
I love it. Let's talk about the Western Conference Finals. So, Thunder up 2-1 in this series. They are playing right now, game 4 as we speak. But just going based off the first 3 games, obviously the Thunder have largely dominated this series. We had the outlier in game 3 with Anthony Edwards' 30-point game. I still love what Julius Randle has been able to do throughout this series and previous series. He ended with 24 in that game, but game 3 really doesn't do much for me as far as what I think the outcome of this series. It's a lot like the Pacers Knicks series, but besides the fact of the Neesmith injury, I still think the Thunder have this series in the bag. There's always one game that the more dominant team kind of lets go of the reins a little bit. I think it was this one. I just don't see the Timberwolves being able to get over that hump. They had a great performance from Edwards, but the Thunder have been able to do a lot of things offensively and defensively to attack this team, and it's been a pretty dominant effort. And so I just want to hear your thoughts on kind of what you feel about this series.
Yeah, it's amazing how awful it's been to watch. A 2-1 series shouldn't be this awful to watch, but
Mm-mm.
every game's been decided at the longest end of the third quarter. I think game one was competitive in the first half, but by the end of the third quarter, Thunder went on a run. You're like, yeah, it's over. The games 2 and 3 were just awful to watch. You knew who was going to win early on. Game 2 proved that the Thunder, like you said, it just looked like the better team. Game 3 was just irritating because, you know, it's very unlikely you're going to see that performance for the Timberwolves again, and I feel like you're just wasting time because.
That's all
But
recording right now during game 4. We don't want to watch it.
yeah, hopefully tonight it's a better game. I do obviously expect the Thunder to come out a lot better. Uh, yeah, you can never really judge big blowouts in playoffs because, like, in early games, in our later games,
Yeah.
yes, but early games in the series because teams just when they realize it's probably the lead's insurmountable. Like I said, when you're up 30 at the end of the half, that's insurmountable. Anything less, it's not. But Timberwolves were up 30-something at the end of the first half, so I think the Thunder were like, okay, let's just go ahead and move on to game 4. And they ultimately lost. I don't even know. They lost by
It was like
40, 42.
yeah,
Okay,
40.
yeah. So, oh my, the Timberwolves slaughtered the Thunder. Oh, the Timberwolves are back.
The series just changed
Yeah.
all of a sudden.
No, yeah. If you get that narrative, you haven't watched enough postseason basketball. But yeah, I kind of hope whoever, I'm assuming the Thunder are going to win the West. I do hope that both West and East series go the same amount of games, so they're both on an even playing field, so there's no
Right.
rest. So I am, from that perspective, I am kind of glad that the Timberwolves won. So it's 2-1. Yeah, but it's just nowhere near as interesting as the East, which is incredible.
No.
You think it would, because the Thunder, best team in the league, best team in the regular season this year, best record, finally got over the hump to make the Western Conference Finals. And you got Anthony Edwards. People keep claiming he's going to be the face of the league in a few years. I'm still not seeing it, because I think face of the league's a little bold, but I mean,
Right.
superstar player. So, I mean, this should be a fantastic series, but I almost feel like I'm forced to watch it so we can talk about it. Because I just hopefully, like I said, hopefully tonight we get a good game, and I look forward to watching it. But lately, it's just not been the case.
Yeah, yeah. It might be some of that East Coast brain, or you know, like games are more accessible than on the East Coast, but the West Coast teams are usually like playing super late in the night, and they usually start these Western Conference games a little later than the Eastern Conference. So you have to stay up a little bit later to watch them too, and it makes it a bit of an exhausting watch, even though both these teams are in the Central Time Zone.
Central Time Zone. The game only starts. Yeah, well, I agree. Regular season, because they play more often on the West Coast, so you don't see them as much. Well, if you live on the East Coast, because you're already in bed. But yeah, but the amazing thing is, yeah, it's really East versus Midwest, because yeah, both teams are Central Time Zone. The game starts just 30 minutes after the Eastern Finals starts. So yeah,
Right.
so I mean, I should be excited to watch it. I'm just not.
He just hasn't really done it for us up to this point. But obviously, SGA, Shai Alexander, wins the MVP. It was kind of, between him and Jokic down to the end, and he comes away victorious with that award. That dominated the news cycle for a little bit, and then it was his foul baiting. It was through the first couple games when they were winning. What do you notice it? Is it as glaringly obvious to you? Even compared to like Jalen Brunson, who I think is very similar in that respect, like foul baiting, and a lot of smaller guards have done the same, being able to just bounce off bodies. I think the biggest thing with SGA, in my opinion, is that he is slight, he is thin, lean, and when he drives the ball, which he drives the ball more than anybody else in the NBA, which is great. In a league dominated by threes, I think it's great that a guy takes it to the hole that many times. But with his body type, he's going to bounce off defenders with a little bit of contact. And I think to the refs, from that perspective, it just has to look like a foul every time.
This really reminds me of 2019, I believe, when James Harden won the MVP, and everyone was claiming that he traveled, his signature move, his step back three. He was traveling, and people hated him for that, just like people hate SGA now for his foul baiting, which I do think he does, but so do other NBA players. But like Harden, I don't fall into that camp where I like that they do this, because they're just taking advantage of the rules. And that's how you, until someone puts a stop to it, I just keep doing it. I don't blame you for doing it. It is weird that he does get, I feel like, a few more calls than normal. I mean, he shot the second most free throws in the entire NBA in the regular season. He shot 8.8 per game, which is only second behind Giannis, which Giannis is not surprising, because like that's the only way you can stop him getting to the rim.
Yeah.
But I got a slim guy like SGA. That is kind of interesting that he's able to be second on that list, 8.8, and he's ahead of The next highest was 7.4 at Trae Young. So, yeah, I mean, I understand why it irritates people because when you put it in slow motion, yeah, he's barely being touched or insignificant contact, and then he kind of flops and shoots a crazy layup, and they reward him with the foul. But like I said, I do not blame him. Just keep doing it. Free throws are easy points. You shoot about 90% from the free throw line. So until the refs stop calling it, keep drawing those fouls. And I mean, now 8.8. So he averages 32.7 points per game. So take away those 8.8 free throws, that puts him at still 23 points per game. So he's still scoring 23 points per game without, I mean, which is still pretty impressive without going to the free throw line at all. So did he deserve MVP? I believe he did. Is his play style irritating? I can understand why people think that, but it doesn't bother me, I don't think, as much as it does other people.
Yeah, the Jokic, the other guy who was I forgot the two favorites, him and Shea. Yeah, he gets a lot of calls down low as well. Jokic is able to draw fouls, and he flaps around like a big old giant there at times. So yeah, Shea's not the only one that does it. Plenty of other guys do it in the league. But what my question for you at this point in the conference finals, who looks to be the championship team? I mean, we've seen all four of these teams play. Who looks like the championship team that we're going to remember?
Remember, I think this will be a forgotten. I think over time this will be a forgotten champion. But who I think is going to win it? I mean, it's tough. The Pacers at their best, I do think, are the best team. It's just sometimes you just see it, and you don't know if you can trust them fully. But if you're playing the Thunder, I don't know if you can trust them fully because they've never been to the NBA Finals with this core. I would lean towards the Thunder. Just if you want 68-14, that means you're legit and you're in control of the Western Conference Finals. I mean, that, like I said, that means you're absolutely legitimate title contender. But I do think Pacers at their best could give the Thunder a really good series if those two teams happen to meet in the NBA Finals.
I still think that'd be the best series that we could possibly get, and I hope that happens. But what I love about right now, where we're at with these four teams, it's almost like a passing of the torch or like a showcase of this era of talent. You got Shea on the Thunder, and not just Shea, but Chet Holmgren, Jay Will. You got Anthony Edwards on Thunder, on the Timberwolves. Brunson with the Knicks, Halliburton with the Pacers. It's kind of just a showcase of this new era of talent that we have in the league. But yeah, it's been a lot of fun to watch, at least the Eastern Conference, but I think we should get a pretty good finals matchup. Before we continue, if you're listening on YouTube, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. That's at KL Sports Huddle. We are a bit of a newer channel, but we're a hungry channel here, so any help that we can get is appreciated. If you're listening on Spotify, go ahead and follow us, give us a rating and review. You can just search us KNL Sports Huddle on there. We're also on Instagram at HuddleKL Sports. You can see some of our content on there in short snippets. So if you can't handle the whole hour-long coverage of this, you can watch us in 1 minute increments, as well as any breaking news that we post on our stories. On YouTube, we do also running out some shorter clips of some of these conversations in 10-15 minute forms as well, so you can get all of our content on YouTube. So definitely go subscribe to us on there. In college basketball, so it was an interesting story that has been developing within college basketball, but more elite NBA draft prospects choosing college basketball from overseas. Talking about all the European leagues, like the Spanish and French leagues. the top young men's basketball players are leaving their European pro teams because over there they're professionals and coming to America to play in the NCAA. And a lot of this is thanks to NIL. We've talked about it so much in the past on this show. But this is just so good for college basketball and for the NBA because it's been so many straight years that myself, I may know one or two players at the top of the draft board when the NBA draft comes around, and the rest, like if you look at last year's draft, and it was Zachary Risache and Alexander Sarr. Like, who are these guys? We don't know these guys. We haven't been watching them play because they weren't playing in college basketball. They were playing overseas, and I think the fact that we're seeing all these guys come over to the American game, into the college basketball. We're seeing more players stay in college because of NIL because they can get paid. Outside of the top guys, the Cooper Flags, right, who are going to jump ship to the NBA as soon as they can. But for a lot of guys who are going to be one or two, they're staying because they know they'll get some guaranteed couple $1 million while they're still playing college basketball, and we get to see them a lot more. We get to follow them, develop. We get invested into them, and once they go to the NBA, we already know them. And I just think this is not only great for college basketball, but it's great for the NBA game as well.
Absolutely. That's now the funny thing is this year's draft is if this wasn't a story, this year's
Mostly domestic, right?
It really is. It's like no European, all from America, all played college basketball. Now a couple of them played for bad teams, like Ace Bailey and Ron Harper. That Rutgers is really bad, but still, you could see him on TV easy if you live in America. Yeah, it's huge, and I like the fact that they did play in the professional leagues in Europe too. So, like, because I mean, the NBA is a global market, so I mean, people in Europe watch the NBA, so they might know these guys from there, and then go to college basketball, which if these European guys are coming to college basketball with the NIL, you could say that it's college basketball is kind of in a renaissance period where guys are getting paid. Now the best young players are in your league, if you call it that now. And
pretty much.
Yeah. And yeah, it's great. It's great for basketball as a whole. Yes, I do think the NBA has had issues with these European players. No disrespect to them, but it's harder for your biggest audience, which is the United States, to connect with these players when they first come into the league. Like it takes a lot for them to win over the American population. Like what Giannis, who was the 15th overall pick. No one really knew who he was. It took a couple of years for him to develop, but once he realized, okay, this guy's going to be a superstar, that's what it took to win him over. Now, guys will be drafted. They might become role players, likely could just become role players, but like, hey, I remember that guy in college. Yeah, he was good for my team. And it's easier to root for guys like that. So, yeah, great for the sport. I hope this trend continues. This is one good thing that NIL has done, I believe. There's lots of positives, lots of negatives with NIL. We could do a whole podcast on that, but this is certainly one positive from that.
I mean, you mentioned Giannis. It took me up until probably a couple of years ago to come around on Luka. Like I didn't really know him coming into the league, and that another situation much like it. Obviously, now he's one of the most notable guys in the league, but it did take me a while to come around on him. But
well, and another thing with him is that like people like the scouts from Europe are saying, "Oh, he's like really good. Like he could become like an all around all time great talent."
Yeah,
and I'm like, I was skeptical. Like I've never heard of this guy.
Yeah, it's like
sure, Europeans have been good in the past with guys like Dirk and Giannis is looking good, but I don't know, like things could happen. But then, yeah, it took a couple of years, but like, okay, yeah, they were right. So,
and that's what I'm talking about. Like if you'd have played 2-3 years in college at like North Carolina, or if he, in any of these top programs that he would have ultimately probably gone to, we would have been able to follow him, and we've been able to follow his career. And once he went to the draft, we'd be looking for his name on the draft board. So I think that this is just great for the league. Obviously, we've talked about in the past how I've felt, at least, about Adam Silver and his almost kind of demonizing of college basketball, because he hasn't taken the NFL approach to all of this. He started his own G League, all of that, and making that more of a priority, and going after uh, and making the European players more of a priority than getting it domestic. But yeah, like I said, this is great, and it's a reason why the NFL is so great, because we watch all these guys in college for 3-4 years, and then we get to see them drafted and do really well and be ready for the NFL. And it's like a lot of these guys aren't usually ready for the NBA, and it takes them time to develop. Once they are drafted, they don't make an immediate impact. But it's another reason why NIL has been one of the positives of the NIL is that it is keeping guys in college, so that they can develop under some of the best coaches in the country. So yeah, I think great story coming out of college basketball, and it's gonna positively affect both leagues. Well, to finish off here with our last topic is in the NFL. Is it spring meetings that they meet up for some of these decisions? Yeah, here in May, and one of the biggest storylines out of it was the decision on the Tush Push. This has been comically at times the biggest story of the NFL in the offseason, but an important one, I think, because in terms of entertainment aspect, um, it ended up not getting banned. It didn't reach the number of votes, 24, that it needed in order to pass the ban on the Tush Push that was presented by the Green Bay Packers. But let's not kid ourselves. It's not like it was a runaway to not be banned. This was really close. They were 2 votes off from getting this banned. And in my opinion, I think the thing that might have swayed at least a couple of voters was Jason Kelsey's presentation, if you will, his monologue to the committee that was voting on this. Give me your thoughts on just, I guess, should it be banned or should it not be banned? Let's just start with that.
I'm on the boat where it shouldn't be banned. I think I would be fully on board if there was concrete evidence and proof that this play was resulting in more injuries, but it's been proven that it has not at all. So then it gets to the point where, is there some sort of illegal formation that's not being called? And here you can make a little argument that maybe, but to me, it's not egregious enough where it's. I just think that no other team has modeled it, has done it better than the Eagles. Like, no team's figured it out. Like, if all other teams figure this out and it works at the success rate the Eagles did, I probably would be. But I don't know if the teams would. Well, they would, because for defensive purposes. But would get banned and deserve to get banned, because it's just too much. Like, first, it's no longer it's no longer 10 yards to get a first down. Like, get it within second and 1. Second one's a guaranteed first down, because
Right.
Tush push it 1 or 2 yards. But yeah, no other teams mastered it like the Eagles. So I think I have no issue with it being remaining. I was disappointed that I was kind of hoping it'd be less teams that would, because it makes me think that this could get banned
Right.
maybe even next year if the Eagles continue their dominance, and if
Yeah.
one guy gets hurt on that play, it might be over, just because
It's over.
they're looking
It's
for
over.
the other teams are going to be looking for anything to ban it. So
I think it was fascinating that it was been such a big topic, considering that no one else has been able to perfect it. I mean, we saw the Buffalo Bills try to do it in the AFC Championship game and fail miserably because they just didn't have the right personnel in order to do it, and they always had Josh Allen going over the top, and that's not at all the way the Eagles do it. They always go underneath with Jalen Hurts. He's obviously shorter and has got a better center of gravity to him because he's just a stocky guy. Um, but I'm glad you said that you're not for it being banned because I'm on the flip side of it. So yeah, to me, I think this will get banned because of how close the vote was this season. Um, in my opinion, that they've staved off the inevitable for at least 1 year because it was so close. And maybe one or two teams who figure out how to effectively use it, this play will be gone by next year. Um, I am for getting rid of the play because it isn't a fun play to watch, and the NFL is all about the entertainment aspect of the game. It is too much of a for sure thing once a team figures it out. And to me, like, what is stopping a team from using it on every down and playing 4 down football for the length of the field? Because if you get 2-3 yards on every play, you can do this in 4 downs and just do that the whole way down the field. Now, that would be very taxing on your offensive line, but who's to say you couldn't use that on maybe not every possession that you have, but at least maybe like a late game possession, and the other team's just going to know it and not be able to stop it. It would kill the entertainment aspect of the game. I mean, we've seen this in baseball. Baseball got rid of the shift because we want to see Juan Soto rip one to the right side without there being 6 guys over there playing the pull side for an easy out. So, in my opinion, I think it's one of those types of plays that should just be taken out in order to preserve the entertainment value.
So I will counter that by saying there is some entertainment to it, not from watching the Eagles, and I'm being 100% serious, from watching the defense try to stop it, because there is some entertainment there because defenses have tried different things, and it's fun to watch what they try. Like, you'll see guys jump over the top. The couple times it has been stopped, you'll often see it's a guy perfectly timing that jump and getting over, and that is fun to watch. So, yes, if it works a lot of times, if you're just watching the Eagles, yes, it's boring. But when you're watching the defense trying to stop it, it does provide some entertainment.
Awesome. I think we both, I think, made good points about it, but I think it's a fascinating play, and I think ultimately, if another team does find consistent success with it, I think it is gone.
Yeah, I completely agree with you that it's probably going to be gone by next year. All it'll take is one or maybe at least one, maybe even if it was just one other team. If multiple teams figure it out, yeah, it's done. If one guy gets hurt, it's done. Yeah.
One injury, it's out. If the Eagles make it back to the Super Bowl and the team that they're playing also finds significant success with it, and they're facing each other, just doing the Tush Push the whole game, it'd be gone too. But man, that was a fun show.
One more thing, just from the NFL owners, or not the spring meetings. Just one other thing I thought about was that I'm so happy. I've talked about this before, that Lions push for the playoff reseeding it didn't even get to the voting board. It was taken down. They probably didn't have enough votes. I'm glad the teams had common sense about that. It's kind of funny. It's the complete opposite of what we talked about earlier with the college football playoff. But it just makes more sense than the pros. The pros are the 32 best teams.
You don't have conferences.
You don't have dominant conferences that are better than the other conferences. So, and like I said before, last year was an outlier. You don't see that too often, where some of the 3 best teams in your conference are in that same division. And ultimately, how those teams performed in the postseason kind of negated that whole argument too, because none of them won a playoff game. So I was glad to see that come off the board, and hopefully it stays off the board. Hopefully we get a normal season next year where it's just regular best records make the playoffs.
Excited for it. Excited. We've mentioned it before, but we're going to be doing division by division breakdowns of the NFL teams here. So be on the lookout for that in the coming months as we get ready for this upcoming season. That's sure to be a fun one. Still don't know what Aaron Rodgers is going to end up, but the hints that he keeps dropping, it's inevitable. He's going to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Right now, he's just holding out because he doesn't want to do OTAs. He doesn't want to show up week one and be ready to go.
If I see, I used to love Aaron Rodgers, but now if I just see Aaron Rodgers in a headline, I just ignore it until I see signs whatever deal with the Steelers. That's when I'll start caring again.
He didn't like. He said he wasn't going to be Brett Favre, and he's on a very similar trajectory for that. But yeah, it's interesting to see if that's even a team that could have success with him under center. But that will do it for us here at the KNL Sports Huddle. Had a lot of fun discussions. Still got NBA playoffs going on. Not too much in Major League Baseball. I will say my Cardinals are doing a lot of good stuff still. Sweeping the Diamondbacks this weekend was a lot of fun over Memorial Day weekend. So, yeah, we'll be back next week with you guys. Get some more NFL news that'll probably come through the news cycle, as well as these NBA games. So we will see you next week. I'm Cage Kiplinger. That's Logan Hubert. Catch you next time.